What's going on, XRP Army? It is Joe. Welcome to the channel today. I have some exciting XRP news to bring you guys. I'm going to go over Brad Garlinghouse's comments on Fox Business and kind of go over and explain my thoughts on that and why it has me feeling super bullish for XRP and why I am really looking forward to what is to come in the near future and why I think we're still getting sign after sign after sign that this is coming despite not seeing much price action. So a lot of XRP people are getting a little disappointed after that SEC news. We only went up 11%, came right back down. Everyone thought that was going to kind of be the catalyst that got us up to $5 to $8. But what I was saying in previous videos is that I thought that was just going to kind of open up the floodgates. It was going to allow institutions to then come in with the big news, with those big plans, and then for the price to go up from there. This was kind of just opening the curtains for them to come in, and that act in itself wasn't necessarily going to be what took us to that $5, $8, $10 mark like some people thought. So while it was a bit disappointing that we only went up 11%, I am still feeling very encouraged, and I do think we're still on the timeline that a lot of people were expecting. So that being said, let's dive into this. Before we do so, please stick with me throughout the whole video. I'm going to play Brad Garlinghouse's comments. I'm going to be giving my comments throughout, and I would love to interact with you guys. So if there's something you find interesting, please comment in the comments below. I would love to respond and interact with you guys. Hit that like button if you like the content. Hit that subscribe if you want to see more XRP news. And with that being said, let's look at the prices. We have XRP up 2.5%. We have Ethereum up 4.5%. Bitcoin up 3.5%. So we see everything in the green today. Solana's actually up 9%. But it is very encouraging to see a day with all of crypto in the green back to back. So that very good news. XRP 246, like I said, a little bit disappointing that we're only trading there after the SEC news, but it's not all that surprising, and I'm still very bullish, as you guys know, and we'll go over that today as well. And I just really think that now we kind of open up the floodgates, we open up the doors for institutions to come in and make this happen. So it is nice to see Ethereum over $2,000 again. It is nice to see Bitcoin at 88,000. I do feel like once we can get Bitcoin above 90,000, we could see that 92 to 95,000 shortly after. And I do think that time could come sooner than we think. And then XRP, I'm hoping for, that 250 to 270 range would be a nice target in the short term. And once we can kind of stack some consecutive weeks of some positive price action in a row and kind of hold those lines of resistance, then I think we're just setting the stage to really shoot up and begin that alt season. And I think signs are coming that are just really preparing us for that moment. So nothing to be too discouraged about yet. This is not financial advice. Do your own research. This is just my thoughts and interpretations of the market. But I just wanted to go over that. So with that, I don't know about you guys, but I am ready to flip that switch. Got to get Monday going somehow. Let's flip that switch. Let's get that alt season going. I am ready for XRP to be at $5. I don't know about you guys, but I am ready for this to happen. Bringing you guys some good news on Monday, some good motivation, some positive thoughts, and we are going to wish this into existence. So wanted to start the video off with that. And then without further ado, let's get into Brad Garlinghouse's comments on Fox Business.
Mac, let's check crypto prices this morning. Take a look. They're higher across the board. The Securities and Exchange Commission has ended its investigation into crypto exchange Ripple, the latest of several deregulation actions by the Trump administration in the digital asset sector. Joining me now is the CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, back with us. Brad, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be back. Nice to see you.
Well, congrats on this move by the SEC. What does this enable you to do at this point?
Look, thank you. Congrats to, I think, the whole industry in a bunch of ways. As you know well, Ripple is really amongst the very first crypto companies to get sued by the SEC. We said then when it started that the SEC was going to be on the wrong side of the law as well as on the wrong side of history. It took longer than we would have liked to kind of prove that out, and more than $150 million of legal bills, but
a lot longer than a lot of us would like, but hey, we made it, we got there, and I feel like the timing ended up being all right now that we have a pro-crypto president in the White House, and now that kind of aligns with that, I feel like we can kind of grow from there. But yes, definitely took a lot longer than a lot of us were wanting.
We're thrilled with the ultimate outcome. It allows us to really unlock the U.S. market which has really been very hostile with a lot of headwinds in the U.S. market for the whole crypto industry.
Yeah, for sure, and we saw investors react to it, XRP seeing a gain over the last week. But Brad, I want to get your take on what Japanese banks may be preparing to do in terms of adopting XRP. What can you tell us about the growth story at Ripple when you look across the world, overseas markets?
Well, once the United States government filed suit, we really were kind of frozen in the U.S. market. And so about 95% of our customers today, Ripple's customers, are non-U.S. financial institutions. And those are
95% are non-U.S. financial institutions. That is an alarming rate. That shows how early we still are into XRP and Ripple, because it's a U.S.-based company. Like, it's going to have a major presence in the U.S. It's going to really grow in the U.S., and I feel like it's going to be the largest in the U.S. And right now there's only 5% in the U.S., so that just shows how early we are into XRP and how much room for growth there still is. So it's little things like that leave me feeling super encouraged for the price potential of XRP, because if it even gets to where it's at right now in those other countries in the US, that's going to be substantial for XRP and what the price is going to do. And then if we can exceed that in the US with these new regulations, the sky's the limit in my mind for what the potential is for XRP.
Some of the largest financial institutions, ranging from HSBC and BBVA to payment providers you wouldn't necessarily have heard of. Markets like Japan, I think, are still unlocking. The market opportunity here is massive. You have trillions of dollars flowing cross-border globally. It's still largely dominated by the SWIFT network, if you will. And that's architecture, that's a technology architecture that was developed 50 years ago. There's an opportunity to modernize. That takes time, particularly when you have a government in the U.S. kind of
So that's another big thing with Ripple and XRP is SWIFT. I know SWIFT came out with something, the ISO 20022 the other day, an announcement there the day after the SEC case ended. And that just leads me to believe there is something going on there between SWIFT and between XRP. I know there was a post that was going around X that got deleted about how SWIFT and XRP had a partnership, and then it quickly got deleted. They said they were hacked. I don't think they were hacked. I think they just prematurely let it out there. They weren't supposed to, and then had to quick delete it and were forced to do so. But I do think there's something brewing there. Garlinghouse mentioning SWIFT right here. I feel like he's given us a little sign, and I'm going to go over that in one of the next posts, but I feel like he's given us signs that these things are coming up, and him talking about SWIFT right here and how it's outdated and how there's room for XRP to come in and make a difference to improve the system is very, very critical, and very, very much so something I am paying attention to.
Combating that innovation. But that's changing now. The Trump effect, if you will, is profound. You're seeing that in asset prices, but you're also going to see that in the adoption of these technologies.
Yeah, and I think, so when you're looking at the growth story then of Ripple, does it still come from overseas, or are you expecting a change in terms of domestic interest in Ripple?
Well, we're definitely already seeing a change in the domestic interest. These 6 weeks after President Trump was elected, we signed more deals in the United States than we had in the previous 6 months. So these are very innovative.
More deals in the last 6 weeks than they have in the last 6 months in the U.S. If that doesn't have you feeling bullish, I don't know what does. And that just means they're working tirelessly behind the scenes on these connections, on building these connections, and how XRP, how Ripple, how RLUSD is going to play a role going forward. There is so much going on behind the scenes, you guys. Brad Garlinghouse is doing everything he can, and I truly feel like the price is not reflecting that yet.
Technologies, I think they're going to play out over 10, even 20 years in terms of how they integrate and rewire the financial infrastructure of the United States. That's across payments, that's across even the settlement of maybe real estate transactions, securities transactions. So I think we're going to see this play out over a long arc, but the United States is finally unlocked, and I think people are underestimating how big that change is, and you'll see that continue to play out this year.
Yeah.
He mentioned it possibly being involved with like real estate transactions and some of the other transactions, and how it's going to take years, and they have such a big picture for how crypto in general is going to be used, and then how XRP can be used, and it just leaves me very, very bullish. And like you said, we are underestimating the power that crypto is going to play when it is fully unlocked. And now that the dismissal of the SEC case, it allows us to unlock the US market, and I feel like that is going to happen. So we have him, I'm going to touch on this more, but he is telling us we are underestimating the impact that crypto is going to have.
Now, President Trump spoke at the Digital Asset Summit in New York City last week. Here's a clip. Watch.
Pioneers like you will be able to improve our banking and payment system and promote greater privacy, safety, security, and wealth for American consumers and businesses alike. You will unleash an explosion of economic growth, and with the dollar-backed stablecoins, you'll help expand the dominance of the U.S. dollar. I can already see that the energy and passion of the crypto community is the kind of spirit that built our country, and it is exciting to watch as you invent the future of finance. It's going to be right here in the USA, the good old USA. Together we will make America the undisputed Bitcoin superpower and the crypto capital of the world.
And the president signed 2 executive orders as part of his pro-crypto agenda, including strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology and establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and U.S. digital asset stockpile. Brad, give us your outlook and really what those 2 executive orders may do. What else do you need to see in order to see stability and growth out of digital assets?
Well, look, in terms of what else we need to see, I think what the president has already done is, and he has used the expression, promises made, promises delivered. The unlock for U.S. financial institutions is absolutely happening. Banks that were really hesitant and really nervous about touching crypto technologies or even helping their customers, those banks and those financial institutions are leaning in now, and that's a big deal for sure, not just for Ripple, but for the whole industry. So he has certainly lived up, and I think we will see the U.S. finally start to catch up with the leadership we're seeing from other markets around the world, that they've really taken the lead, and we need to invest here and see some of these U.S. companies thrive.
Yeah, and
one of the things I like about Brad Garlinghouse a lot is how he wants to see the whole crypto community together succeed. He wants to see everything succeed, not just Ripple. Obviously, he wants Ripple to succeed, but he wants to see the whole industry succeed, and he's constantly talking about that. So that's one of the things I really like. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Are you guys pro crypto in general or just pro XRP? If XRP went to $100 but everything else failed, would you be happy or no? I'm actually curious some of your thoughts. So if you do want to give your thoughts, give those below on that.
Spoken with the regulators about this. We spoke with Cynthia Loomis 2 weeks ago and last week with French Hill as they craft the regulatory framework. What's most important to you in terms of the regulation part of this? Let me run this. Cynthia Loomis and French Hill with us just in the last 2 weeks. Here's what they said about regulation. Watch.
Bitcoin is a commodity, so it will be regulated by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Some other cryptocurrencies look more like a security and should fall under the disclosure requirements at the SEC. So part of what we want to do is guide what is a commodity and what is a security and provide that kind of clarity in the law so we can let agencies know who has jurisdiction over what.
In a big developed country like the United States, we already have many ways to instantaneously pay for things, and this wouldn't be top of mind, but it will be lower cost in foreign markets. You have you reduce the cost of foreign exchange, you reduce the cost of fees across borders. And so in some countries where they have an unstable currency, a weak banking system, not a very good payment system, a smartphone app with a digital wallet with a dollar-backed stablecoin is a good way, even at retail, to do a transaction.
That's what gets me really encouraged about XRP is hearing him talk about the use cases there. He's like, it's not going to be top of mind in America with the daily transactions because there's so many different ways for that to happen now, whether it be credit cards or whatever it may be. Obviously, I do think XRP and cryptos in general do solve a problem, and it will eventually help and be integrated and play a huge role in a lot of those ways. But in the U.S., like he said, it's not like a huge problem right now, so it's not going to be top of mind in a big rush. But when it comes to transacting with other countries where their currency might not be as stable, when it comes to all the fees that are involved and the speed involved with transacting with these other countries, this is where XRP comes into play and is going to play a huge role in my mind. If it's backed by a US dollar backed stablecoin, RLUSD for example, and then XRP can come in and play a huge role in the speed, the safety, everything else that comes along with it, making it way easier, way cheaper to conduct those transactions. So hearing him talk about this just got me super excited for the potential of XRP and how it's going to be used, whereas a lot of us are thinking it's going to play this, and this role in the US and we want that instant. Hearing him talk about it, it's like, okay, we're going to have to be a little patient in the US, but when it comes to these other markets, countries, there's actually a need for this right now, and it's Ripple, XRP, RLUSD can play a big role in that. So hearing him talk about that, especially with Swift coming out the other day and talking, had an announcement about ISO 20022 the day after the SEC case ended with Ripple, I really think they are looking into ways for XRP, RLUSD to be integrated to make these transactions easier and quicker and cheaper. So those comments were very intriguing to me.
Brad, what's most important for the regulators to understand as they create this new framework for digital assets?
Well, look, the good news is people like Congressman Hill, they do understand. They understand how important it is for these technologies to thrive here in the U.S., and they have started to architect bills to help enable that. I very much agree with Senator Loomis. It can't just be executive orders. It needs to be codified with legislative efforts by Congress. We're seeing a lot of forward movement. A stablecoin bill is already going through markup, and I think we'll see that come to a vote in the next 4 to 8 weeks. There's the second one that Senator Loomis also talked about was what we often call a market structure bill, providing clarity that we've been asking for as an industry as to how will these technologies, these tokens be regulated. Are they commodities? Are they securities? XRP was deemed to be a commodity or not a security by a federal judge, which is the opposite of what the SEC had said. So to see the SEC really combat lawfare and to attack this industry and now have leaders like Senator Loomis and really heroic leadership from Congressman Hill, I think it's going to make all the difference in the world. And I think we're going to see both a market structure bill and a stablecoin bill pass in the next 6 months.
So what does that mean for Ripple?
Well, it means the clarity we have been asking, and Maria, you and I have talked this probably over the years, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times, to get that regulatory clarity so that the customers we engage know they can engage in good faith and to use these technologies without fear of regulators coming in and attacking them. That's a big deal, and that will allow this innovation, allow more job creation, more innovation, and frankly, capital formation here in the United States.
Understood. Brad, it's great to catch up with you.
So I've used that word regulatory clarity on here many, many times, but like he was saying, now that there is that regulatory clarity, it takes that huge monkey off their back and allows institutions to be able to now come in with that peace of mind, knowing that there isn't going to be anything wrong with it, any problems. So to get that off their back, to be able to move forward without that case looming over their heads is just huge for Ripple and XRP, and why I was kind of saying at the beginning of the video that the SEC case being over wasn't necessarily what was going to be the leading factor that took it from $2.50 to $10, but what it was going to do is allow all these other things to be able to now have a role in order to come in and for us to see those price increases that we were expecting. So, and then we had Brad Garlinghouse release a comment today. As I said today on Mornings Maria, I strongly believe we are underestimating what it means to unlock the U.S. market through upcoming crypto legislation, as well as previous guidance statements rescinded from the SEC and OCC, allowing FIs to work with crypto. With 4+ years of headwinds behind us, the U.S. is ready to reclaim its leadership position. So FIs being financial institutions, but he is reiterating the fact that we are underestimating what it means to unlock the U.S. market through upcoming crypto legislation. I've been trying to say this over and over again, that all the signs are there, there's sign after sign after sign in place, and he is telling us right in front of our faces that we are underestimating this. So I'm taking note of that and paying very close attention. And then I've always said, Watch Brad. He's clued us into what's coming several times before. He speaks on knowledge. When he says underestimating unlocking U.S. market via crypto legislation, he means it. We're going to see an explosion of U.S. crypto growth this year. I would agree with this comment totally. I think he's spot on, and I think that is what I am expecting. I think at some point this year, Brad has said second half of this year a couple of times in interviews that that's when we're really going to see this price action happen and this developments, these institutions come in and make it happen. And then we had David Schwartz. I'm not going to play this video, but he said the plan is clear: institutional adoption, mass retail adoption, banking the unbanked, and working with the $8 trillion industry and not against it. Hold your gold. But what David Schwartz was basically saying in this interview is you can't just expect to go retail to just fly in instantly into XRP or to crypto. You need institutional adoption first. You need that framework in place. You need that back end in place. And then once all of that's in place, once you have the regulatory stuff figured out and cleared up, once you have all the rules and how it's going to look and what everything's like, there's a lot of back end stuff that has to happen. Institutions need to come in and set everything up and okay this and that and show you how this is going to work. And once all that's in place, then we can get mass retail adoption. So I feel like there's just several different big things on the horizon that are going to be coming up that's going to allow all of this. But for us to just expect mass retail adoption right away was a little bit of a lot of people becoming impatient with this news. So just wanted to talk about that. So yeah, overall, just curious your thoughts on Brad Garlinghouse's interview today. I know it left me feeling super bullish. I am very excited. Although the price action doesn't reflect it, I feel like he was giving us a sign. He was telling us like, hey, we're still underestimating crypto. We are underestimating XRP. We are underestimating what's going to happen in the market once all of these things happen. Prices have gone up a little bit, but what we saw back just over a couple months ago, at what prices we're at, that's I feel like that's such a small level of where we're going to get to too, because that was all just off of hope and wishes. Nothing was in place when it got up to there. It was just the thought that President Trump was going to do this and that, but nothing was in place at that point. So I feel like we're going to get to that point before all of these things come in, before all of these things happen, and then once that happens, we're going to even go up from there. So I feel like we are just at the beginning of this year's bull cycle. It is coming soon, in my opinion. I am going to be glued to the news. I'm going to be watching it. I'm going to be looking for all these hints. I'm going to be bringing them to you guys. Give me your thoughts below. Again, if you like the video, hit that like button. If you want more content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It greatly helps out the channel. The subscribe button's actually right up there, so don't be afraid to hit it. And then I will talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks.